Hello, I'm live. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Kendall Platt and I'm the Mindful Gardening Coach. I am a horticultural therapist and a recovering overgiver on a mission to bring the healing power of nature to your garden. If you are joining me live, do give me a little wave in the comments. I don't know if we can do that here, or a little heart, and maybe pop in the chat where you're tuning in from. I can see a few of you are live here, so do let me know where you're tuning in from. So I am based in the south of England, near to Reading, in a little village. And here on Adventures with Flowers TV, I'm going to be sharing practical gardening tips and insights to help you cultivate personal power in a world that often leaves women feeling exhausted, stuck, and burnt out. So we are going to be using your garden to re-energize you, to improve your well-being, and to just give you a little bit of a break from all of the things that you are responsible for in life, so you can get out and be in nature. This is our first Q&A of the season, and it's our Q&A for March. Now, I have got a couple of questions already submitted, but if you have got questions, please do pop them in the chat. I think you can click at the bottom and just press write a message, and I can answer your questions. The theme of today's Q&A is how to get started in your garden. In the UK, I know that 87% of households have a garden, but the vast majority of them are sitting unloved, unused, and quite honestly, making us feel guilty every time we look out there and think, oh, I really must do something with the garden. So it's my aim to get you out there and get you in the garden so that you can feel better, but also so you can enjoy your garden and stop feeling guilty about it. Hey, Rosie, nice to see you. Rosie is a member of the Seed, which is my membership here on Substack. So yeah, please, like I said, if you've got any questions, do pop them in. Otherwise, I'm going to dive straight in with the first question because it may resonate. So the first question then is from Jo. And she says, hey, Rosie, she says, how can I plant up a corner of my garden that includes tree roots, stumps, and old concrete posts? Oh, yes. The being lumbered with somebody else's mistakes, or, things that they've done that actually you don't really like doing. How are we going to undo that? She says, I don't have the strength or time to dig them all out, but I'd love a border instead of a messy corner. So the first thing I'm going to say here is not to panic. We can definitely give this a bit of a glow up, this area in your garden. It would be useful, though, to know what the conditions are like in that part of your garden. Now, this is something that I'm going to be taking you through on the Great Garden Rebellion, which is happening from the 24th of March. I'm going to be helping you to work out what conditions you have available in your garden, because that is one of the foundational steps that you need in order to have success when you're growing and not, come up against a hurdle as soon as you start. So my first thing would be to work out what conditions you have. Now, you say that there's tree roots, so I'm guessing it's under trees. So I'm going to, because I don't know anything else, I'm going to presume that you are in a shady area. So a few I'm thinking kind of like maybe like a woodlandy area you could try and create. Now, I know Jo, and I know that she loves nature and plants, and I know that she is a foraging expert. So I'm pretty sure that this woodland vibe is going to appeal to her. So a few plants that I think would be really good to look into. Spring bulbs, obvious one. Some of them are very small. So even if you've only got small pockets that you can plant in amongst tree roots, concrete stumps, and other bits and bobs, you can always fit a few bulbs in there. And at this time of year, when everything is kind of just starting to get going, certainly in the UK, popping some bulbs in is going to be a very welcome addition to that kind of dark, sad looking area. It's going to really lighten that up and give it, a bit of excitement and vibrancy. Some other plants that I really think would be nice in there, if you are happy to kind of stick with a greeny, vibe, then some ferns would do really well in the shade. And again, you can get some quite small ones. So if you've only got small planting pockets, they'll do quite well in there. And also maybe some wood sage as well. Again, very used to growing under trees in woodlands. So it's not brightly coloured, but it is got kind of like a lovely acidy green, which will lighten that area up. And then in terms of kind of like other colors and brightening things, you could include some sweetwood ruff, which is lovely, beautiful little white starry like flowers. So I think that would be really nice. And wooden enemies as well. So I've got wooden enemies on my list to get underneath my, oh, here she is. This is Jo. Hey, Jo. We're chatting about your, I'm suggesting your ideas here. We're talking about making a lovely kind of woodlandy area underneath your trees. So I was just saying about putting some wooden enemies in. I think they would do really well. And obviously they come as little corms, so they will fit in all the little pockets in and amongst your tree roots and everything else that you've got going on there. And then some things for some colour, maybe some red campion would do quite nicely. This will self-seed quite readily in that area. If it's really, really shady, they may struggle to flower, so do bear that in mind. But something that won't struggle to flower in a shady area is foxgloves. Now, I know you've got kids, Jo, but I think they are old enough to know to not eat foxgloves, hopefully. I don't think you've got tiny ones, so foxgloves are a really good option. And lovely pinks that they come in, peaches, lots of bright colors that you can put in there. So yeah, so do have a look at that. Spring bulbs as well, I said, and ferns as well would be a really good option. So all of these things that you can plant in there. Now, in terms of like logistics, so once you've chosen like what plants you're maybe going to consider putting in there, you've obviously got the issue of the soil is probably quite compacted because there's lots of tree roots down there and old wooden stumps. So what you might find is that the spaces that you've got to dig and plant into are quite small. So for example, you won't even be able to put a spade or a trowel in there. Now, I don't know if you have this gardening tool in your arsenal. Now, the reason I know about this, excuse me, my nose is running. The reason I know about this tool is because my husband was an archaeologist for many years, and we actually met on our forensic archaeology masters. And he introduced me to the wonders of a mattock. So a mattock is a really, really great tool. If you've got really hard soil that's really compacted that you're needing to kind of dig up, a mattock is a really, really good option. You can almost certainly get them garden centres. Quick tip for you here on comfort when you're using a mattock. If you can, get a wooden handled one rather than a plastic handled one. Plastic handle, as you dig into the ground, the reverberations will just go up through the handle and it's really uncomfortable, but a wooden one doesn't do so much. It really absorbs the impact there. So Jo, if you've got any questions further about the things I've said, then please do pop them in the chat so we can dig into them further. And hello there to somebody else who's just joined. If you would like to ask any questions about how to get started in your garden, please do pop them in the box below. Hey Kimberly, another one of my lovely seedlings, my members here on the seed. It's so lovely to see you. If you have any questions, please do pop them in the comments box at the bottom and we can get to them. For now, though, I'm going to go on from Jo's question and move on to a question that I've had from Kellie. Let me just scroll up on my screen here. So this is a question from Kellie, and I think this is going to really resonate with a lot of people. I really want to inject some more colour into my garden for the summer, and ideally, so the flowers come back every year. Is it best to go for bulbs? I keep almost buying some plants or bulbs when I pop into Tesco's. Now, Tesco's, for those in the US, is like a big supermarket chain here. It's like where we go to buy our food generally, but they do tend to sell other stuff as well. But I feel like I need more of a plan, but where to start? Now, this question was quite written really for this live. So the first thing that I'm going to say here is that if you want flowers that come back every year, you kind of want to go with bulbs or something that are called perennial plants. Okay. So perennial just means that they come back every year. You have the opposite of perennial, which are annual plants. Now they last literally for one season and then the plant dies. So if you want to guarantee that they're going to come back every year, there's a couple of things we need to do. We need to either choose bulbs or perennial plants, but we also need to make sure that we're planting them in the right place in our garden. Now, as I said a minute ago, this is something that we're going to be covering in the Great Garden Rebellion in a couple of weeks' time, starting on the 24th of March. You are very welcome to join us. I will put all the details for that in the post that this goes out on. And this is really going to take you through getting to know where the areas in your garden are that you can plant these plants and they will come back because the conditions are going to be right. So in terms of bulbs as well, it's really key to know what soil you're growing on. Now, I know Kelly is down in Devon, but I'm not 100% sure what soil she's growing on. But again, if you don't know, Kelly, then if you know, come and let us know in the seed. If you don't know, then come join the rebellion and we can work it out all together in a couple of weeks. That's what we're going to be doing as a group. Because some bulbs don't like certain types of soil, and what will happen is they will get waterlogged and they will rot and they won't come back. So I don't want you wasting your money on bulbs if the soil that you have is not going to like them, basically. So another thing that I want to talk about quickly is plant quality from Tesco's versus the garden centre. Now, Tesco's is great, but the reason Tesco's buy plants and sell plants is because they can buy them dirt cheap, because they have huge buying power and they can make good profit on them, basically. But generally what you tend to find is the quality is not so good. So I would advise, if you can, going to a local garden centre and buying really good quality plants. Or I have got some really good a couple of online plant suppliers that I like. The vast majority of them, as you will know if you've read my the reason why garden centres are dying post, I don't think are that great in the UK. Don't know what the situation is in the US, but yeah, I would say go to your local garden centre. They usually have a wealth of knowledge and you can ask people there. But if you're going to buy, I would say go with intention to the garden centre, and know what you want to buy. And again, this is something that we're going to be working on in the Great Garden Rebellion. So you can actually have a list of plants and go to the garden centre and be like, these are the things that I need to buy. So there's no kind of like doing that kind of like supermarket sweep, grabbing random things. And this really nicely then brings me on to having a plan. What we can find if we don't have a plan and we kind of do that random buying of plants here and there is we get everything in the border and it looks a little bit higgledy-piggledy and it doesn't have that like nice cohesive look. Now, there are a few garden design principles that I go through in another one of my workshops, which is designer border masterclass. And I think actually maybe I am going to touch on them in the rebellion as well. These will help you to come up with that plan, to come up with that list of exactly what you want to buy, and you're going to know exactly where you're going to plant it in your garden, because we're going to have worked out the best place to start planting those things in your garden. If you want more bespoke advice on this, on your particular garden, then you can come and book a glow up with me. That is 30 days to focus just on your garden, one-on-one, just you and I. And that will have real impact. So if you aren't interested in doing masterclasses or joining in and learning in a group, then you can come and book a garden glow up and we can focus for 30 days on your garden and get that colour popping in there. So, I'm just looking at the grey clouds behind me. That's not good, is it? Right, I'm going to answer Kimberly's question before it disappears. Kimberly says, is it best to start flowering plants as seedlings inside and replant them in the garden, or to just put the seeds directly in the ground? This depends. What an annoying answer. It depends where you are, where you're located, and it depends on the type of seedlings that you want to grow. So there are some... so generally with seeds, and this is an important thing to point out, is even if you give them all the most favourable conditions you can by growing them in pots inside before you plant them out, the germination rate on most seeds is no better than 50%. So if you sow 8 seeds and only 4 come up, it doesn't mean you're shit at gardening. It means that was what was expected. Okay. So sometimes you get lucky, like some tomato seeds that I buy from a supplier here, every single one seems to germinate. And I'm like, oh, this is great. But some seeds are trickier than others to germinate. So if you get anything above 50% germination rate, then you're doing really well. That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say then is if you sow those seeds directly in the ground outside, they are going to be subjected to harsher conditions than if you've grown them inside, for example. And what that will mean is then that germination rate will fall, and you may get slightly under 50%. So my guidance is give it a go inside, especially like in the UK at this time of year. It's still too early to be sowing outside for most seeds. Kimberly, I know you're in the seed membership, so feel free to pop into our group chat what seedlings you want to, what seeds you want to grow, and I can give you some more like tailored advice. But I would say try and grow them inside in plants. In pots, whether that's inside on a windowsill or if you've got greenhouse or some other place that you like a conservatory, for example, or orangery that you can grow them in. As much light as possible, not too much heat. For now, and then once the weather is warmer, that's when we can start getting them ready to go outside and eventually planting them into the garden. But yeah, it is one of those things of like it depends. I think in my March what to do in the garden in March, I did give a little image of like what seeds to sow now. Now I know that's for the UK, so I will dig into where you're located in the US and try and work out the shift there, because there may well be a shift. But generally, I would say from a confidence boosting point of view, which is what I'm all about here, I want you to enjoy your garden time. So I would say get going in pots. You can control it a little bit better, and then you can plant them out into the garden once it's warmer. Rosie, a question from Rosie. I have a lot of pots and I know I need to refresh the compost at this time of year, but it's such a faffy job, especially as I've put a layer of gravel on top of the pots. Do you have any tips for how to do this without making a mess? Okay, annoyingly, I can't show you because it's in there, but I have a really good it's called a compost tray, and it's basically what I use to do all my sewing on, and it's basically like a plastic tray. And I do all of this onto there. So I literally tip the pot to the side, the big pot, and I scrape gently the gravel off until it's in the tray. And then I move that to one side, and then I get in there with my hands and I literally scoop maybe the top 5 to 7 centimeters of soil off, chuck that. I mean, you can chuck it onto your garden borders or you can chuck it into the compost, but that compost is pretty spent, in all honesty. You don't need to redo the whole load of compost, and then you can get some fresh compost, backfill into the pot, and then scoop your gravel back in. But by doing it in that tray, it means it doesn't go everywhere, and you're keeping the mess kind of contained. But yeah, I agree. It is a bit of a faffy job, but your plants will you'll be rewarded with better flowers if you give it the time now to refresh it and give them some more kind of juice and energy. Thank you. I have a tray. Yeah, okay, you've got a tray. Great. Yeah, my tray's excellent. Although, sometimes I still make a mess. There's not much you can do about that. Right, we've got a couple of minutes left till I'm going to go, or I'm going to get rained on. There's a very large black cloud there, which I hadn't banked on. I tell you what, it's blooming freezing here. But yeah, these questions are really great, and it's really helping me to decide on the content for the seed going forwards, and it's going to really help me to design to write articles and design resources, and long term develop Adventures with Flowers TV into a short gardening show that is useful. I would love to know, either now or in the future, if you would like to, for me to show you how to do certain things on this, or if you like the Q&A style. But yeah, I really want to develop this in collaboration with you and actually make it so that it's useful for you, because I know that a lot of the gardening media out there is hours and hours, or an hour's program, which, let's be honest, as busy women, we're kind of lucky to get. And very often the presenters on there are not living the similar life to you. They don't have small children, they don't have a busy working life, they're struggling to they've got oodles of time to garden, and I know you don't have that. So that's why I've created the seed, in order to bring you those kind of 5-10 minute activities and actually get you taking action. Yeah, so Rosie says here, Gardener's World is comfort watching, but it's not useful. It is. It's like cuddle up with a cup of tea and have a watch, but actually, is it going to get you taking action in your garden? No. I'm here to get you taking action, and that's why I've designed the Great Garden Rebellion, which actually Rosie's done, so she can tell you all about it. And I think she's on the sales page, so you can go and see on the sales page exactly what she thought about it. But you know, it really is the kind of intro steps to getting you out in the garden and actually taking action. Because, you know, if you're here, it's likely that you're done with like promising yourself that you're going to get out in the garden and take some time for you and get the garden looking good. But there's still that thing of like, oh, but what the hell do I do? So the Great Garden Rebellion is going to help you to take those first steps. So, you know, we can start this rebellion of women claiming what they want for themselves, taking that time for themselves, getting out in nature, resourcing themselves in nature, improving their well-being, lowering their stress levels. But in order to do that, we've got to say enough is enough and finally start taking action. And I've put this in place so you can, you know, take those small steps across 5 days with me to actually get you taking action. And then, yeah, you're gonna be flying. But I'm really excited to see what everybody does in their garden this year. I am going to be coming back for another live Q&A at the start of April. They're going to be on the second Tuesday of every month. Currently at 12:30 because this seems to be quite a good time. There's a few people tuned in. But if you have any other questions in the interim, if you are a seedling, i.e. you are a paid member of the Seed, my membership, then come and ask your questions in our chat. Otherwise, I look forward to hearing about your garden adventures. Please do share things on Substack, tag me in your photos, those kind of things, because I really want you to win. I want you to get in your garden and I want to start you know, taking more time for you. So please just get out there and get in that garden. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye.